Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. Today's video will be breaking down why Team Liquid drafted the Sona Taric versus Clutch Gaming, and why it might not be as bad as you might think. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I've seen a lot of criticism online about the Sona Taric draft, and whenever I was watching this live, I was like, oh wow, this is a really good draft. I thought it was checkmate at draft in this game. And why this isn't bad for Team Liquid, and why if you're a Team Liquid fan or an NA fan, you shouldn't be, this shouldn't dishearten you. Obviously going 5 games of clutch doesn't feel good, but we'll talk more about that in just a minute. The main point of the video is I want to explain why Sona Taric was very good in this situation, and why this isn't a bad look for Team Liquid. And before you go all,
Just a little NA fanboy, TL fanboy.
despite what the rest of my content looks like, the league that I pay most attention to and actually care about the most is the LCK. I watch almost every match in LCK and actually really pay attention and try to be analytical about that stuff. As far as NA goes, I watch NA and EU about the same amount. I watch when the good teams play, and then obviously the playoffs, but I watch more as like a casual fan whenever I watch those. And there's just the games that I'm watching that I find interesting, I'll choose to actually take a closer look at and break down. But as far as that goes, I really care more about LCK anyways, so this isn't some weird NA bias or Team Liquid stuff anyway, so get that out of your mind. Anyways, so let's talk about Sona Taric, and before we talk about Sona Taric, let's just talk about what a best of 5 is. If you haven't watched Professional League Legends for a long time, you may be unaware of this, or if you just haven't really been paying close attention, there are humans that play the game. So there are humans that play the game, and this is very important because when you get to a game 5 of a playoff series, something that kind of happens is, the players are tired, the players are nervous. This is sometimes the highest stress they've ever been in terms of their professional career. And what teams will almost always default to, if you look back to the history, is scaling compositions. What teams will always look back to is scaling compositions, and that's why. And who scales the best in the game? Who scales the best in all of League of Legends? Sona Taric does. Sona Taric death ball and comping scales better than almost anything you can think of in the game, and as well as a Corki is probably one of the best scaling champions in the entire game that you have on your team. So that is one of the reasons why Sona Taric locked in, is in a game 5 both teams are going to choose scaling. That's just what you do in most game 5s. People just lock in scaling. And another thing let's talk about is, how do you actually punish a Sona Taric? Let's talk about that. So before we even talk about the actual draft, we're going to talk about that in just a second, but how do you even punish a Sona Taric? So the 2 ways that you punish a Sona Taric, the first one is large disruption ultimates in team fights. So something like a Gragas, something like a Rumble, something like a Kiana, something that can displace a lot of team members is very good into Sona Taric. So something that can do displacement so they can't death ball anymore, get the perfect Taric ultimate, stacking all the heals, is you pick champions that can displace you. And none of that is locked in this draft. Let's talk about why that is in a minute, and where the Sona Taric was taken was very smart. The other thing is bottom lanes that slam Sona Taric. So if you're able to slam Sona Taric in lane and just never let it get off the ground and just snowball super hard, so snowballing comps through bottom lane is another way to punish the Sona Taric. But that wasn't locked in this game because teams are going to match for scaling. Also, that's not a look that Cody's Sun picks very often. A bottom lane that slams, Clutch is not a team that plays through their bottom lane in the early game. So this was very smart being drafted right there. All right, let's talk about the actual draft. Let's look at it. So Aatrox was taken at the 1 with first pick, and then Tahm Kench and Sejuani was locked in at 1-2. So let's look at that. Tahm Kench, not somebody who slams Sona Taric in lane. He can do well against Taric, obviously, but not going to be a champion that super dominates the lane. And then Sejuani, already locked in the jungler, so they're not going to lock in the Gragas to disrupt you in the team fight. And Rumble and Kiana is already banned, Braum's banned. All the champions that disrupt team fights that are played in the current meta game right now are already gone. So you don't have that option, and you already locked in a Tahm Kench. Something they maybe could do is they could pick a Varus after this point, but they end up locking in the Sivir anyways, which is a great pick. But they have no way of slamming Sona Taric in lane. They have a scaling jungler. Um, they have a scaling jungler, and then they pick their strong side on the opposite side of the map. So not something that's going to slam Sona Taric, not something that's going to disrupt a Sona Taric. So it's a perfect time to pick Sona Taric. And actually listening to Team Liquid's interviews, so some of the interviews that they did after the game. So what they actually said is they weren't even thinking about it until they saw the Tahm Kench and Sejuani locked in, is what they initially thought was, oh wow, they picked Tahm, they might lock in Sona, because Sona and Tahm's a really common lane. Actually has a higher win rate than Sona Taric. Because you can keep the Sona safe in lane, and then Sona scales like an animal. So so when they saw the Tahm Kench and Sejuani locked in, they're like, oh crap, they might take Sona at 3. So they were thinking about it, and they're like, wait, this is a perfect situation to lock in Sona. Then they locked in the Sona Taric, and after they locked in the Sivir, there were absolutely no answers to a Sona Taric composition. So this was actually checkmate in draft, in my opinion. When I was watching this live, I was like, oh wow, they have no way of dealing with Sona Taric. I thought this was pretty checkmate in draft. They've locked in the Sona Taric. The enemy team has nothing to do, no way of dealing with it. And then they just combo with a Corki. With Sona Corki's, like in the late game, it's hard to even find a better combo in the later stages of the game. Sona Taric Corki is pretty insane, and you have 2 beefy boys in the front line to keep your Corki and Sona safe and a Taric to peel. It's pretty much checkmate in draft. So anyways, that's pretty much it explaining why that is. So if you're a Team Liquid fan or you're a North American fan, I don't think you should be super worried about this draft. Everybody is like, they had to pull out Sona Taric. This was a perfect situation for Sona Taric, and I would imagine if they played a best of 5 against any of the other teams, but played a best of 5 against any of the best teams, they get to elimination game, teams are now going to have to ban the Sona Taric against them if they get to a game 5 situation. So I think it's great pulling it out right here, showing it right there. Obviously, if you're a Team Liquid fan, you're not happy that it went to 5 games. Clutch is like a wildcard-esque team. So, I mean, honestly, when I was watching these, if any team was going to take them, do really surprising stuff against Team Liquid, I thought it was going to be Clutch. And maybe take them to get 5 games just with their, surprise ability and playing around their solo lanes, because they always play weak side. Team Liquid always played weak side top lane. So I thought that might be some interesting things that may happen. I think the C9 series is going to be very good, but that's not the point of the video. The point of the video was just to explain why Sona Taric was very good in the situation. If you're an NA fan, I wouldn't be worried about having the default to Sona Taric, because this is a look that they can bring out in any Game 5 situation. So I think it's actually a good showing for Team Liquid on this, and they're probably the best Sona Taric team that I've seen in the entire world. Most teams get at a deficit. They actually win lane a lot of times on Sona Taric, or lose the minimum. So not necessarily win lane, but they lose the minimum most of the time and can win sometimes. So anyways, that's it. I hope that explains some things for you if you were confused about that. If not, cool. If you didn't like it and you just think I'm NA biased or anything like that, I don't give a fuck. But if you didn't, hey, thanks so much for watching either way. And if you like to subscribe, you can subscribe. I'll do more content like this, as well as VOD reviews. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.